Hey, Musties! Where did this news come from? There was a countdown that Toho had going on, like on their official Twitter page, which, because of the constant changing rules on Twitter, I couldn't view it. I swear we had like a few more days until the new Godzilla movie was announced. But here it is. Godzilla Zero is no longer what the title officially is called. That was just the rumor title. The real official title for this new upcoming Godzilla movie is Godzilla -1. Yeah, leave it to Toho to come up with the catchy titles for this. So we're going to take a look at the trailer, which apparently is just a teaser trailer, but it shows what Godzilla looks like. Not only that, but we got our first poster. So let's delve into that first. It's a bit of a spoiler. Here we can actually see Godzilla -1. We see the full iconic G image that they showed earlier. And now we can actually see Godzilla, which in this art here, he has massive dorsal spines, which I feel like we've been waiting to see for a long time. We've always seen artistic expression of Godzilla with massive spines on his back. These are even bigger and wilder than the Millennium Godzilla. The design of this Godzilla kind of looks like that Godzilla the Ride design that Japan had for the exclusive amusement park ride. One of those 4D rides with the movie screens and stuff. So let's check out the trailer. Post-war Japan. Oh, wow. You can already tell the visual effects are so much better. From 0 to minus.
Godzilla -1.
Oh! Oh! Oh, that looked beautiful. I can't wait to see this. Okay, I just pulled up a screenshot here of his foot stomping. And as you can tell by the scale of the people surrounding, which it's been a while since we've actually seen a Godzilla foot come down and practically stomp on people. That's awesome. It's great to see that again. But you can tell by the scale that this Godzilla is much more like the original 1954 Godzilla, where he's closer to 100 feet tall. But it's not just this one image that we want to see. We actually got to see his face. Just look at that face. I mean, it's cool. You can definitely tell that the CGI is improving since Shin Godzilla in Toho, because while it almost kind of looks like the same level of detail, Shin Godzilla was a very slow-moving model, so you didn't really have to tell that the CGI was off at all because he was barely moving at a time. This Godzilla seems to be moving a lot faster and still looking just as good. So I feel like if they had Shin Godzilla move a lot faster, like during his earlier forms, he looked a little cartoonish. It wasn't until his final form, when he was heavier, that it looked more real because he was pacing and moving slower, and the CGI could keep up with it and they didn't have to move so much detail around. But here, this Godzilla can actually move. And just, I know it's hard to look at his face here. Like, we barely get a glimpse of this. But I think it's beautiful. This is exactly the proper follow-up to, I don't know, I want to say maybe the Heisei era design. Like, this feels like, just the face alone feels like the 90s Godzilla on steroids. This feels like the spiritual successor to that. Like, whenever I saw those Dark Horse comic books in the 90s, and they had those drawings that were heavily based on the Heisei era Godzilla, my imagination pictured Godzilla looking more like this. Shin Godzilla was a beautiful reinvention, but this looks like the proper epic or return to form for Godzilla to be more his core self. Now, what do we know about this? Well, according to Forbes, the world's favorite 100-foot-tall rampaging kaiju is about to make landfall just in time for the holiday movie season. So interesting here, right? I thought this was a typo at first, or they just had their facts wrong. Forbes says Godzilla is the world's favorite 100-foot-tall kaiju. This is actually possibly more accurate, because even though Godzilla nowadays is over 400 feet tall, since this appears to be set right after the atomic bombs were dropped on Japan, this Godzilla is much smaller, just like the original 1954 film. So it's cool to see Godzilla return to an era where he doesn't have to necessarily be super gigantic to be intimidating. He's still giant. He's still powerful and unstoppable. But here in this case, he's more down to size, but still powerful enough that the military, being weaker back then, could not stop him. We also have the release date. We know in Japan it is releasing on November 3rd of this year. However, in the United States, it'll be releasing almost a month later at December 1st. I know you have to stay away from spoilers online for about a month, but we can get through this. Come on. So it's interesting that this is called Godzilla -1, as it appears to be like almost another, I don't want to say political film, as in how Shin Godzilla is very political. We followed all the bureaucracy, yellow tape everywhere that the human characters had to go through to respond to Godzilla. This seems to be more about the devastation that Japan itself has had to tolerate, maybe economically. Forbes quotes the president of Toho International, Koji Yuda, as saying, "The concept is that Japan, which had already been devastated by the war, World War II, when the United States dropped bombs on Japan, faces a new threat with Godzilla, bringing the country into the minus." Okay, so Japan is devastated by World War II, and now Godzilla arrives and makes things even worse for the country, which is trying to recover. It could be very interesting. Are you excited to see Godzilla set in a different time era back towards the beginning? Are you okay with Godzilla being smaller considering the timescales? I mean, granted, skyscrapers nowadays are huge. Even Godzilla being 400 feet tall is nothing compared to the biggest skyscrapers. Godzilla's not kept up with the height. There's why that's important to me is because it's always been this iconic image of Godzilla standing next to skyscrapers. And even he is dwarfed by them nowadays. Which I don't think he needs to be bigger than the biggest skyscraper out there. Everybody's seen those artistic Godzilla movie posters from the 90s where he's bigger than all the other buildings. He doesn't necessarily need to be that way. But there is something exciting about hearing a new Godzilla being slightly bigger. But this is cool. Bigger is not always better. So to bring him back down to the smaller roots, smaller scale, it could really do him justice. All right, Musties, thanks for watching.